Welcome, everyone. I'm going to take a moment to settle into a comfortable posture. We can start with our customary half-hour meditation. Just in the beginning of this period of meditation, just kind of coming home to what's here right now. What is going on in this body and this mind of yours? Just kind of noticing maybe feelings or sensations, currents of energy, tingling, tension. In the mind, there might be streams of thought, patterns of movement. And whatever is there is okay. Perhaps it's pleasant, and it can just be there without you needing more. And perhaps it's unpleasant. Maybe that can just be there without it needing to go away. There's often many feelings or sensations we just don't really pay much attention to. Maybe those can be known. Maybe they don't need to be ignored. That acceptance without pushing away or pulling towards or ignoring, that's really the most helpful place for the mind to be. We might see if we can bring that attitude towards this meditation. As you let attention rest on the sensations of the breath as they arise and pass away, you might see if you can do so with some of that equanimity. Just letting the breath be as it is. And of course, minds being minds, even if we set the intention for attention to rest on the breath, Mind will certainly wander. Something will arise and pull the attention away. That's okay. That's just what the mind does. When that's noticed, the thing to do is not to get upset about that, have any kind of self-criticism. It's simply to let attention return to the breath with kindness. As this pattern continues of attention resting on the breath and some craving or aversion arising, mind spinning off in thought, mind remembering intention and coming back to the breath, you might play with how much effort is being put into this intention to notice the breath. There's a sweet spot, a middle way, not too much, not too little. Sometimes when the mind is restless, it may take a bit more energy, a bit more effort. And sometimes that effort can be let go of, and the mind will remain present. The correct amount of effort is really what's helpful to remain present. And that's different from person to person and moment to moment. And part of practice is learning how your mind works and what it responds best to. You might try it out and see the reaction when you put more effort into being present or less effort. See how the mind responds. And sometimes as we sit, these moments of presence start to accumulate as the mind stills and quiets down. This doesn't always happen, of course. It's certainly okay if it doesn't. Sometimes presence deepens. There's a feeling of settling in to the breath, knowing it more fully, seeing all the little details. There's a sense of flow to this. all these little phenomena arising and passing away and being known. You might feel into that, see if that's the case. And if not, that's okay too. Just be present. Just letting the intricacy of this flow of sensations that are the breath pull the mind into presence. Sometimes there's a certain gravity when you focus on an object. Just draws the mind in into this present moment. Becomes interesting and enjoyable. The mind wants to pay attention rather than get lost in thought. So just letting go into that, if that's possible. If you'd like to continue on letting the intention rest on the breath, that's perfectly fine. But also, if the mind feels stable, it doesn't have to be perfectly stable. Just the mind feels like it's mostly present. You can simply let go. Just rest in presence. Nothing to do and no one to do it. Just being here now. And sometimes when the mind gets quiet, you might see a little bit of kindness start to peek through. Not always, but sometimes it's there. It's just something for you to notice. It's a nice little treat. This is your awakened mind shining through this fog of this sense of self, letting itself be known. As we bring this meditation session to a close, you might take the last minute to reflect on the benefits of our practice here today. Any peace or stability or kindness or insight or good karma that you've accrued here will benefit you in the future. What you do here today echoes out into your life, and it touches those around you as well. Your loved ones, your friends, your coworkers, they're people you pass in life. All of them benefit too. So when you sit, you're benefiting yourself and you're benefiting everyone. It's a helpful thing to reflect on. And thank you all for sitting with me today. Good to see you, Damon. Good to see you, Jesse. Before I start, we have many announcements to get to. So announcement number one, as you all noticed, Dhamma is back. So I'm sure we're all very happy about this. So some schedule announcements. For this week, the holiday week, Wednesday morning will be as normal, so 8 a.m. But there's no meditation on July 4th, so no Thursday metta. And Dhamma will be here on Sunday, but it will also be in person, so in person or online. Next week, the change there is that the Tuesday talk will be moved to 7 p.m. So everything else is the same. It's just starting at 7 instead of 6:30. I think that will be easier for folks. And in a couple of weeks, on July 19th, Dhamma is starting a Friday class on the suttas. So that will be starting at 7:30 on Friday, July 19th, in person or online. So some other events. This weekend, July 6th, there's a brunch for the Sangha at 10 a.m. Anyone is welcome. Just please let me know. Send me an email. There's also a retreat starting on July 12th that the Dhamma is leading, and there's still spaces open. So you're welcome to sign up for that. On July 20th at 10 a.m., we're having a like combination welcome back celebration for Dhamma. And also there's a Buddhist holiday, Asala Puja, that falls on that day. So it'll be a kind of combination thing. Everybody can kind of come together and meet some other Sangha folks. I think that's all of my announcements, although I have the feeling that I'm missing something, so we'll see. There is a Dutch sculptor named Theo Jansen, and for the last 20 or 30 years, he's been sculpting these things he calls beach creatures, B-E-A-C-H. And like he's got this great variety of them, but I'm thinking of one in particular I saw it was maybe like 10 years ago or so. It's this great sculpture. It's maybe the size of a bus. And if I had to describe it, I would say that it looks like an origami dinosaur, right? The interesting thing about this sculpture is that it's got a fin on the back, and this fin is connected to a bunch of little legs on the bottom, and it's connected mechanically, right? So it's when the wind blows, the fin moves, and when the fin moves, the legs moves, and it starts to walk. This giant bus-sized origami dinosaur, and I remember seeing it for the first time many years ago. And I was really struck by how alive it seemed. Like, despite it being clearly not alive, it's this construction of like PVC pipe and canvas, right? It's clearly not alive. It's clearly only moving about based on, the conditions. When the wind blows, it moves. When the wind doesn't blow, it doesn't move. But it looks alive when it moves. And so I saw a video of this again recently in the past few days, and this is where the talk came from. I had this moment like, oh, this difference between what this thing seems to be and what it actually is. This is what we do. This is what we do. We feel that we're somehow apart from causes and conditions. We feel we are somehow separate. We're some fixed entity that doesn't change. The world moves around us, but we stay the same, and we have the ability to kind of choose and direct our path. That's kind of how we feel about things. It's not the case. So this is what I'm going to talk about tonight: the difference between what we feel like we are and what we actually are. So imagine some great river. This is the river of conditionality. Each individual droplet of water, the position of that drop is affected by all the other drops in the river. If the river is moving one way, the drop will move along with it. And the movement of that individual drop of water affects all the other particles in the river. This is conditionality. And this sense of self that we have, that we feel that we think is separate from this, you might imagine this as somebody taking some food coloring or some dye and just like dropping it into the river. That dye, that moves around with the river just in the same way that everything else does. In just the same way, the sense of self we have moves around based on conditions just like everything else does. And so I like this analogy because it really gives a sense that this the sense of self that we have kind of mars the beauty of the river, or in our case, it mars the beauty of experience, kind of obscures the clear nature of things. It's not that the sense of self is bad. It's a like natural phenomenon. It's just how the world works. But there is a sense in which it makes things a little unpleasant, which is what our sense of self does. Our sense of self is our source of suffering. So that's maybe the sense of self in kind of broad strokes, like the grand picture of things. But we can also talk about the sense of self in a much more granular manner. Just get down very, very small, into the very smallest moment. We can see the self there too. So the analogy I have for that is, if you look at one of these candles I have here, if you were to stand far enough away, that candle would appear to be just this kind of solid point of light. But if you come up close and you look at what's really happening, you'll notice that candle flame flickering back and forth. It's not stable. It's not solid. It's just this ephemeral thing. When the wind blows one way, the candle flame blows along with it. When the world blows one way, the sense of self blows along with it. And then it moves in a different direction in the next moment. And so our existence is this series of phenomena arising and passing away very, very quickly. We don't really perceive how quickly it happens most of the time. But if you imagine like the fastest drum beat you've ever heard, every time the drumstick hits the drum head, you can imagine that representing a phenomena arising. It happens that fast or faster. And each one of these phenomena that arise is an opportunity for the sense of self to arise in response to that. So for every one of these phenomena arising, the next thing in the sequence of events can be one of four things. It can be a feeling of greed, a feeling of, I like this phenomena. I want it to stay around. I don't want it to go away. I want it to stay. Or I want it to get bigger. I want more of this thing. So that's one possible response. Another possible response is aversion, which is the kind of other side of that coin. I don't want this. I want this to go away. And the third response is delusion, which is basically I don't want to pay any attention to this. It's not worth my time. So these are three possible responses. There's a fourth one that's kind of categorically different than the others. It's simple acceptance. Just this is. There's no movement. It doesn't need to be anything else. It's okay how it is. And if we look at the first three, the greed, aversion, and delusion, we can notice something interesting. Each of these is some kind of resistance to the world. It's the world is here, and you're trying to make yourself over here. This is how we create our sense of self. It's from this one thing, seemingly two things emerge. The thing is here. Now I don't like this thing. There's an I and a thing. And similarly with greed or delusion, it's that's where a sense of self starts. It's that motion, this pushing away of the world. We define ourselves in terms of that, in terms of this phenomenon that's arising. And sometimes it can stop there. It can just be the phenomena arising, and then the greed. Perhaps it's just there's a pleasant feeling in the body and maybe a little leaning towards it. But sometimes the response can be much bigger. If maybe you're feeling hungry and there's a feeling of aversion, and from that feeling of aversion rises this whole big other thing. I need to go to the store. I don't have any food. How could I have forgotten to pick up food at the store? I'm such a bad person. This whole story that we can create, where there can be just acceptance, just no sense of self, just this is. Mm. So these three motions of greed, aversion, delusion, they're resistance to the present moment. Something is wrong with the world, I need to change it. The analogy I have for this is, so I drive like a 2009 Toyota Corolla. This is like reasonably old, so it's kind of getting a little long in the tooth. And um, a couple of years ago, something happened to my spark plug timing, and it got out of whack. And driving that car was it was pretty uncomfortable. There was like I would pull up to the stoplight, and there would be this like great vibration. I'd be worried that something was going to fall off, and I'd be like pushing the gas pedal. I wouldn't hardly get anything. And it was just this very unsafe, very uncomfortable feeling to drive the car in that state. And this is what that motion of greed, aversion, delusion. Um, this is what that is like. It's a um, kind of disharmony in the world. It's the difference between driving the car with the poor spark plug timing and driving a like nicely functioning car that's very smooth and very clean. So last week I was speaking about surrendering, and I was surrendering to the present moment, and I was talking about this exact thing, this motion away from the present, greed, hatred, or delusion. Surrendering is letting go of that and just being with what is. And there was a really good question that was asked that I wanted to kind of address. Um, the question that asked was, if you do this, if you surrender, if you let go of greed, aversion, delusion, what happens? Do you just kind of lay on the bed all day and just not do anything? It's a good question, but it turns out no. This flow of phenomena that is experienced, it continues on perfectly fine, and even quite better without this resistance. It's just this flow, which is what I was trying to get at with the car analogy. So kind of putting them together. We have this feeling of being something separate from conditionality, being this thing that can direct our own path and choose our own way. And I'm not denying any of those feelings. Those feelings are real. It's just that we misunderstand what we are. We misunderstand that. It's not that they don't exist. We just see it incorrectly, see what we are incorrectly. So from the kind of very smallest piece, the very smallest moment of time, phenomena arise, and response, greed, hatred, or delusion arises in response to that. It arises based on that. So if one phenomena provokes one response, a different phenomena would provoke a different response. And so it arises, and this process keeps happening over and over and over again. Just it's this constant stream of I like this, I don't like this, I don't care about this, I don't care about that, I don't care about this either, I don't like this, I want this. It's this constant stream. And when we step back from the individual moment and just kind of live our lives, it's this constant stream of I'm doing something, I have some I have some kind of problem with the world. And so we can be like forgiven for like taking that to be solid and stable, because it's very often an experience. We just misunderstand what it is. That's it. So coming back to the analogy of the dye in the river, when the dye dissipates, when the sense of self kind of is fully seen through, you stop identifying with that little tiny piece of the river. And the mind kind of expands its definition of I to everything, to the whole river. You're something so much bigger than this little tiny, a little bit dirty piece of water. So you become the whole river and the source of the river. So this is something that's something for you to see. Like it's nice to hear about it, and it's good to have people talk about it. But it's the power of this is not just hearing about it; it's seeing it. Um, you may or may not be like intellectually convinced by my words, but there's a part of you that needs to see it clearly. You need to see it incontrovertibly. Um, so this is the thing to use for practice. The analogies that I offered are things that you can like feel the truth of in your life. You can see, you can watch the sense of self. Does it like, is it this stable thing, or does it respond to circumstances? When when you um, when you have a bad day, when your car gets stolen, when your boss yells at you, do you respond a certain way? You can see this sort of stuff, and this is the way to practice with it. Sometimes I worry when I talk about kind of abstract things. People will think it's like some kind of like sophistry or just like mental exercise, uh, but it's not. This is the point of the Dharma is to change your life. It's not just to like think about something and have this like very pretty mental model. So when you do this, when you see this clearly, there's a very natural just like letting go. When you see that the self doesn't work in the way that you think it was, when the way that you think it did, the mind doesn't use that tool anymore. It just doesn't. So when you do that, you let go of resistance and stop struggling, and the dye clears out of the water, and life becomes beautiful. I think I want to talk about that next week, but I'll close with a short poem towards that point that a friend of mine shared with me yesterday. I've really been enjoying it, so I'll share it with you guys. This is Peace is every step, and I'm 90% sure this is Thich Nhat Hanh. Peace is every step, the shining red sun in my heart. Each flower smiles with me. How green, how fresh, all that grows. How cool the wind blows. Peace is every step. It turns the endless path to joy. Peace is every step. The shining red sun in my heart. Each flower smiles with me. How green, how fresh, all that grows. How cool the wind blows. Peace is every step. It turns the endless path to joy. Thank you all. It was very lovely to sit with you all today.